Attention, all followers of Zaros. He is in great danger and he needs your help to spread his content in the fandom. Yes. Well, what he's going to need is your 16-digit credit card number on the front. Don't forget the 3-digit security code and, of course, the expiration month and year. But look, you've got to hurry because time is running out. Let's go.
Hi everyone, it's me Zeros. I have an exciting video for all of you today, and this is the second ever video that I made that involves interaction with all of you, which are my audience. If you want to watch the first video of my interaction with all of you, feel free to go check out my art video that you see right here on the screen. I'm going to try and keep this intro a little short because I have received a lot of questions to answer for all of you, and I just wanted to mention beforehand that I will be starting classes today, which is the time that this video is going public, which is Monday, August 31st. I will be at my house a little while longer, so I'll find some more time to create videos for all of you before I head back to university in 2 weeks. I'm supposed to be there right now, but they delayed my move-in day. Okay, let's hop into these questions. I can tell that this is going to be a long video, even though I say that in lots of my videos. However, I would like to clarify one last thing before diving into these questions. I will be answering several questions at the same time. You will understand what I mean in my first question that I'll be reading to you. Some of the questions that you have all asked me were a little confusing, so I will probably skip them, but I will be getting to as many of them as I can. So for the first question, I'm going to be combining these three questions here. Who is your favorite fursuit maker, and who would I request a free fursuit from? These are all really good questions already, and I think that they're going to be a little more interesting as I go on. So for a favorite fursuit maker, I'm not quite sure who I would choose. You all know that I've had poor experiences with fursuit makers in the past. In case you haven't seen my previous YouTube videos, I have dealt with two poor fursuit makers. Whenever I look at fursuit, I don't really know who the maker is because fursuits do not have a tag or anything sewn onto them. So whenever I see a fursuit, I'm not entirely sure who makes it. However, if I had to choose one that I know already, I would say Pasilu, mainly because she's making me a new fursuit head, and she has one of the best looking head-based designs that I've ever seen on a fursuit. I'm hoping to get the fursuit head within a month, so you will all see what I'm talking about when it's done. As for a maker who I would want a free fursuit from, I would say probably Frost Fursuits. A while back, I asked Twitter to take their favorite fursuit makers because I was looking for a new fursuit maker to commission, and Frost was expensive, so I wasn't able to afford it. However, if I could request a free suit from anyone, it would probably be them. I'm going to be doing the longer questions first here just to get them out of the way, but the second question I'm going to be combining as well. Apologies if some of you do not like this topic, which is inflation. You can skip to this timestamp on the screen here if you want to skip onto the next question. A lot of people have asked me various questions about inflation. Some people have asked if they can inflate me. Yes, you can, but if you pop the suit, the stress will shave 10 years off of my life. Someone else asked me how I got into latex. Funny story, actually. I made a video a couple of years ago talking about how I got into latex. I wasn't really into latex originally, but I was just into inflation. I ordered an inflatable suit from Latex Catfish, but there was a miscommunication. They made me a skin-tight version of Zeros instead of making an inflatable version of Zeros. They sent me the skin-tight suit, and I waited another month for them to finish my inflatable suit of Zeros. During that time period, even though I wasn't quite into latex, I wore it and I thought it was an interesting material to wear. I'm not that much into the not safe for work stuff with latex, which is why I don't really post not safe for work stuff on Twitter. In regards to latex, it's mainly just suggestive and nothing lewd. Also, Cole Fox Rabbit has asked two other questions. He asked me what my favorite movie is, and I would say The Incredibles 1 or 2 would probably be my favorites. I would prefer 1 over 2 because I've seen it more times and I grew up watching it while I was younger. His second question was Beastars or BNA. I would say neither because I don't watch anime, including Beastars, and I don't know what BNA stands for. Sorry. And I don't even know if I'm even saying Beastars correctly. So, my apologies. A couple others have asked me how I got into inflation, and someone asked me how I got my blueberry suit, and someone else asked me which inflation suit was my favorite. The way that fetishes form are by childhood memories. I've always seen safe for work inflation within cartoons like Tom and Jerry, movies like Harry Potter and Willy Wonka, etc. I was exposed to a lot of silly shenanigans when I was growing up, and I took more interest in it when I decided to join the fandom. I saw art of it and it made me more and more interested, and I decided to try it out for myself. I saved up for suits and I started to make inflation content, which a lot of people seem to like. I haven't had too much of the time recently because I'm working really hard to think of new ideas for you all. The way that I got my blueberry suit was by talking to the owner of Squeak Latex, and he was willing to sell me a pre-owned blueberry suit of his. I paid $1,200 for that suit, and that may be the best inflation suit that I own because it's very iconic in the community, and I feel like that the best content that I make on my YouTube in regards to inflation is made with the blueberry suit. The last question I have about inflation is this. You like inflation and inflatable suits, but how do you feel about balloons? I don't have a balloon fetish, but I love seeing balloon arts at Fursonas. I have some pool toy inflation art of Zeros that I have posted recently on Twitter, so feel free to go check that out. I have made some balloon art of Zeros in the past, and I uploaded it to FA, but they didn't turn out too well. I am planning on working on more art whenever I have the free time, and whenever I feel more confident enough to post this kind of art, you'll probably see on Twitter. Okay, so now to turn away from that topic, apologies if some of you weren't interested into that kind of stuff. Disney Lover 129 asked if I like Disney, and Alkiz backed that question up by asking what my favorite Disney movie is. So I mentioned it already, but if you skipped ahead, I'll say it again. The Incredibles is my favorite movie, even though it was made by Pixar, but it was released by Disney. I don't know if that counts, but I would say that my favorite Disney-made movie would be Up. To answer Disney Lover's question, yes, I do enjoy some of the movies that are made by Disney. I enjoy the older films more than their newer films. I also got 2 more questions. Have I heard of Fnuke Bunny? No, I haven't. And do I like stuffed animals? Yep, I don't mind them. I don't sleep with any when I'm resting overnight, but I do think that they're cute, and I do have a couple stuffed animals of Zeros in my room. For the next couple of questions, some furries asked some questions about conventions. Shady Queen 420 on Twitter asked, what's the first con that I loved or was memorable, and the first con that I hated or was not so memorable? I have only been to 2 conventions, and they were both furry migration in Minnesota. Honestly, it wasn't a good convention for me. I thought that the first year was a mess because I've never been to a convention before and I was picking up my fursuit there. Therefore, I would say that the first year was memorable just because it was the first time I've seen Zeros and wore him in person. The second year was even worse for me. Everything was disorganized and the staff members were even ditching their own events where there were points of blocks, like just open blocks in the schedule. And a ton of members were dropping at last minute, including one of my roommates who demanded a refund from me. I offered to volunteer for the convention, but the furries that run the convention never reached out to my friends and I with volunteering opportunities. The people who run the convention played favorites with staff. There was a lot of favoritism involved. They wouldn't really care if they were understaffed, and they mainly only hired people who they liked and not who have experience, except maybe a few people. That's how the convention got so disorganized and cluttered. They even removed a floor from the convention from the previous year when I attended in 2019. The convention was basically a local meetup, so if you were a stranger, you would struggle having fun there. I felt bad seeing some of the lonely furries there because they didn't seem to find any others to talk to, which made me a little sad. So with that said, it's the only convention that I've been to, and it was probably my least favorite convention, and it will most likely stay like that. However, I can probably speak for others when I say this, but the worst convention of all time is Rainforest. This channel doesn't need to be tainted with gross stuff that happened at that convention, so if you want to learn more about it, feel free to check out the description to read more about what happened at Rainforest. The next question, asked by Gamer Lee, was, how can you know the hours of activities in the convention? Well, for me, what they did is they handed out schedules and you were able to find the schedule online as well. Some conventions might be different than that, but that's based on my experience. Vilsum Wolf asked me what my funniest experience at a convention was or online interactions. I have a ton of funny online interactions, which, there's too many of them that I wouldn't be able to find the funniest one. I also don't have much convention experience, so I can't really say anything funny that happened at conventions for me. However, I would say that a funny online interaction that I've witnessed recently was when I called out a poor fursuit maker for not delivering my completed fursuit on Twitter, and she lost about 60 followers in one day over that. I know that may sound a little lame, but I couldn't think of anything else off the top of my head. For the next 3 questions, they regard about my YouTube channel and advice that I have for others, and these are going to be my favorite questions to answer. Knife Guy from Twitter asked me, what do you like the most about being able to talk to your fans on your platforms? Is it something you enjoy doing, or is it a bit overwhelming for you? The thing that I like the most about being able to talk to my fans is being able to take suggestions. As strange as this may sound, I kind of enjoy having somewhat of a smaller fan base because it allows me to communicate with my audience more directly. Maybe if I have 30,000 followers on Twitter and 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, I may have to slow down obviously, but honestly, popularity is a trap and it makes you a bigger target for hate, and people feel like that they have to compete with you in order to feel more superior over one another. I've seen it happen between a few furries, and it's something I don't really enjoy dealing with in the fandom. It's also why I don't like using the worst word in the fandom, which is the word poppyfur. Yuck. Back to the question. He asked if it's something that I enjoy doing or if it's a bit overwhelming for me. I would argue both ways. I enjoy doing it because content creating is a fun activity for me to do. Having an audience makes it more enjoyable and makes me think of new ideas and makes me more motivated to execute these ideas. I spent a lot of money on equipment and technology, and I do this to make the coolest video for you all, like spending gas money to visit my friend Zandiel, to make YouTube skits, or spending hundreds or a little less than a couple $1,000s to get the equipment and technology to improve my videography and cinematography. The overwhelming part of being able to talk to my fans on platforms is that I get a little discouraged sometimes when YouTube doesn't do their job by not recommending me to new furries or even my own subscribers. My views get 27.5 times less the amount of average views these days, and at this point, I don't do it for the ad revenue, I just do it for the fun, and since I've had a lot of time recently, I've been able to make a lot of videos on my new camera, and I will be done with college in 2.5 years, and when I get my own apartment, I will be setting up my own studio, and I'll be making new skits for all of you to watch. So even though my views don't get as many views as they normally do, don't think that this channel is dying because I do have a lot of cool stuff planned out for the future. This leads to the second question, which asks how long that I'll be doing YouTube. I don't have a set deadline with when I'm going to be done with YouTube. I may not post too frequently, but I don't have any plans on stopping anytime soon. And I just need YouTube to quit being a butthead, and I need them to start recommending me to more furries so that I can make sure that everyone else enjoys what I post. I may have to start selling merch if this keeps up. And that's a joke, by the way. Okay, so now for the third question. Koshi asks, what is one piece of advice you'd give to smaller content creators? I have a lot of advice, but since you only asked for one, I will give you what I consider to be the biggest one for beginner YouTubers. Don't start a gaming channel. This may sound a little discouraging, but gaming content is such a watered down subject on YouTube that people as young as 12 years old are able to make their own Minecraft Pocket Edition gameplay videos. I only recommend that you do gaming content if you either have a fun personality to watch like Dashy Games or skills like Ryukar. This applies with streaming too. If you stream, make it fun. Do giveaways, talk to your audience. People will like that. However, if you do too many giveaways, you may end up with ghost followers, and many of them will appear inactive. I've done this before I joined the fandom, and that's what I have to recommend to smaller creators. Funny thing I mentioned this because I was considering on doing some gaming content in my Fursuits, and I'm not too sure what games I would play, even though I may attempt playing CSGO in my Fursuits. Okay, now that the longer questions are out of the way, let's dive into some of the shorter questions, starting with my favorites, not including the Disney question that I answered earlier. Recreational AJ asked me what my favorite brand of food is, and I think he meant the type of culture that I enjoy eating the most since he listed Mexican and Italian. He actually listed my favorites in that question, which is Italian. I absolutely love pasta, and Olive Garden is my favorite restaurant for that reason. Brandon Hunt asked me what my favorite theme park is, and I would have to say the Mall of America theme park would be my favorite, mainly because I'm from Minnesota, and the Mall of America, located in Bloomington, Minnesota, has the biggest indoor theme park in the country, which I find pretty cool. Also, fun fact, the mall is so big that it even has its own zip code. Dingstar on Twitter asked me how my day is going and what my favorite food is. My day is going great. I'm filming this on Saturday, August 29th, which is the last weekend of my vacation. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I'm going to be starting classes on Monday, which is on the 31st. So I'm relaxing as this is my last weekend of vacation. I will be editing this video on August 30th, and I will be releasing it on the same day of me starting classes. And my favorite food? I already answered that in another question, but I'll say it again, and that would be pasta. The Gunter LOL asked what my favorite kind of pie is, and I actually don't eat pie, which is probably why I'm so skinny. I'm a fan of anything chocolatey, so if I had to try out any pie, it would probably be chocolate flavored. And a Toy Bunny asked me if I like Five Nights at Freddy's, and I actually only played the first one for a while, and I wasn't really a fan of it. I remember when it was released, and I was almost done with junior high, and I tried it and I wasn't too big of a fan of it. I don't really like horror games, but with FNAF, you can somewhat predict when the jump scares would happen. I only played the first 2 nights of FNAF 1, but I stopped on the 3rd night because that's when you can't really cheat your way through the game just by looking at Bonnie and making sure that you close the doors on time. Zep asked me what kind of music do I listen to, what I dislike, and if I play any instruments. I'm only listening to soundtrack and classical music. In fact, the song that you're hearing in the background is kind of the music that I enjoy listening to. I'll stop talking for a couple seconds so you can kind of get a hint of what I'm talking about. So yeah, I'm into that kind of stuff. Classical is rare for me to listen to, but it's there if I'm bored. The kind of music that I dislike is anything with lyrics, really, just because I only listen to music whenever I'm trying to focus on something. If I hear something on the radio and if I don't have any kind of Bluetooth available, I don't mind listening to today's hits. But if I had to absolutely avoid 2 genres, they would be rap and country. I also do play instruments. I play about 6 instruments, which are piano, violin, clarinet, bassoon, trumpet, and a little bit of guitar. Clarinet and bassoon are my favorites, and I play music for about 12 years now. I was actually going to major in music, but instead I'm going to major in computer science and mathematics, which this actually coincidentally leads me to the next question here. If I had to quadruple major, what would I major in? So I would major in computer science and math, as I'm doing already. If I had to choose 2 more majors, I would choose art and Spanish. I wouldn't major in music because I am so good at music to the point where I don't need an education in it in order to become a part of a professional orchestra, but they also don't make as much money. I chose art because art is a topic which I'm passionate about, and I'm always working towards improving on it in my free time. I would major in Spanish in real life, but all I need are 2 more classes and an oral proficiency exam. However, I'm not going to be doing that because I'm going to be graduating a semester early already, and my university is no longer enrolling people in Spanish majors and Spanish minors. I was lucky enough to enroll in a Spanish minor, so therefore I would choose Spanish to be my 4th major, and they're not enrolling any more people in Spanish because they're doing budget cuts because of the whole COVID situation. Lola on Twitter and Tango from YouTube have the same question, which asked me who my favorite fursuit crush is. I don't really have one, but if I had to choose, it would be Miami Meow on Twitter because he checked in with me in private a couple of times on Twitter when I was feeling upset, and he is very expressive with showing off his amazing bodybuilding progress. He's probably my favorite fursuit crush because of his kind personality and his positive ego. It's not too much and it's not too little. It's just right for me. Now for a couple of questions about myself as a furry or in regards to Zeros. Wereboy Ryan Films and Axley asked me what kind of hobbies I have outside of the fandom. I do photography, videography, I play video games, make arts, and I hang out with friends, and I also enjoy shopping around. During the school year, I spend a ton of time studying, so if you count studying as a hobby, I would consider that to be my biggest one, and I work really hard to do well in university. In fact, last semester was the very first semester where I got onto the dean's list. Regarding my Fursona, Nightwind on Twitter asked me what other species that I would consider for my Fursona before choosing to be a wolf. I actually didn't have another species in mind, but if I didn't make Zeros, or if I decided to switch species for Zeros, I would choose either a blue jay, mainly because they're the same colors as Zeros, or I would choose something a little more unique like a moth or an otter, or maybe a hybrid. I never really thought about it too much. Kit Kat Cat on Twitter asked me what made me choose my colors and design for Zeros. I originally chose a light blue color because light blue is my favorite color, and I couldn't quite think of what other colors would go well with light blue. I decided that white would be a decent color that goes with it, and for the hair, I kind of chose a long, scene type of haircut because Zeros' hair was the type of hair that I've always wanted back then during my awful emo phase in high school. I grew it out, and it was a little too wavy for me to style. I wanted to have a jet black with red stripes going through it, so I decided to give Zeros a little bit of variation of that, and I decided to make it red on top, black in the back, and I decided to give him black hair tips. This is what Zeros originally looked like, and it looked a little too plain for my liking. A month later, I contacted the artist again, and I went with these designs instead. These extra designs had no purpose behind them, and I just wanted to include these just to kind of spice up my persona a little. Summer asked me why I wanted to go with the wolf persona, and I don't really know. I somewhat regret choosing wolf because of how common that they are in the fandom. Some people mistake me as a fox sometimes, but either way, they're pretty much the same in this fandom. It's mainly People mainly mistake me as a fox because of the small triangles on my muzzle, but I try not to make them too big so then people didn't mistake them too often. DoofMath on Twitter asked me how long I've been a furry and what made me want to join, and what's one positive and negative thing about the community that we can keep or improve on. I've been officially in this fandom for a little over 3 years now, and I wanted to join because I wanted to be a part of a large community because my life felt a little bland and boring. I had a ton of creativity that I wanted to express, and I felt like that the fandom was a perfect place for me to express myself in. You don't have to be interested in a certain video game or TV show in order to be a part of this community, so I felt like it was perfect for me. Something I felt like something that I would love to keep in this fandom is all of the creativity and unique personas. I feel like that's something that we should never change. However, something that I feel like we can all improve on would be the drama. I see drama almost every day in the fandom, however, it's typical in all fandoms to experience this. Now for some miscellaneous questions that I feel like didn't really fit into a category. Rebirth asked me how to make popcorn and if I know what birds say. Yes, you pop popcorn by sticking it in a hair straightener one at a time and popping them, and then you load it up with fake popcorn butter that you find at movie theaters, and that's sarcasm, by the way. I also don't know what birds say, so you can swear at me in bird language and I won't understand you. Rezi asked me why I'm cute. I'm not cute, I'm just a small wolf in a big fandom. Kelly asked me the same question, and now you guys are making me blush over it. Almir asked me if I have traveled to a foreign country before. I actually traveled out of the USA and I visited Canada for a little while. I don't know if you would consider the US Virgin Islands as foreign, but I visited those islands like Grand Turk, Puerto Rico, and a few more. Westy Fox asked me if I like cuddles, and absolutely. Baruch asked me why. Because I said so. I don't know. And for the last question, Rick asked me what I think of paranormal activity, if I do martial arts, what I think of bronies, and if I'm a Godzilla fan. I do not believe in paranormal activity. I used to do martial arts, and I actually did karate a couple of years ago, and I was at a purple belt, almost at a brown belt. Bronies are fine. They're not harming anyone by having fun. And I'm not a Godzilla fan, and I don't know anything about Godzilla. So that was a lot of reading. Phew. Anyways, I won't keep you here any longer. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to drop a like and check out my other YouTube videos. I would also appreciate if you can subscribe to me and check out my Twitter. I greatly appreciate how patient that you have all been with my videos, and I'm hoping to get some more content out soon. I'll see you next month, everyone. Take care.